When you finally get on a plane and settle into your seat, you're really just seeing the end of a long story. Because the most critical part of your flight, the part that pretty much guarantees your safety, is the part you almost never see. It's all the meticulous work that happens on the ground, a promise the pilot makes long before they ever even think about starting the engines. So let's break down what that promise really is.
All right, so what do you think? Is it the takeoff? The landing? Yeah, those are definitely the moments that get your heart pounding. But the real answer, well, it might actually surprise you. That's right, it's everything that happens before the wheels ever leave the runway. For a pilot, a safe flight is decided right there on the tarmac. As the FAA puts it, any hasty ground operations diminish their margin of safety. In the world of aviation, preparation isn't just important, it's literally everything. And this isn't just some catchy phrase. It's the absolute foundation of the entire aviation safety culture. A pilot's situational awareness doesn't kick in once they're in the air. Nope, it begins the second they walk up to that plane. This is the core principle right here. Rushing is the enemy. Every single moment a pilot spends on the ground is a direct investment in the safety of every single person on board. It's a deliberate, slow, methodical process that's designed to eliminate any nasty surprises up at 30,000 feet. So before a pilot even thinks about touching the controls, they put on their detective hat. Their very first mission is to dive deep into the aircraft's logbooks and answer one single crucial question: is this plane legally and mechanically fit to fly? Now, this might look like a bunch of legal jargon, but it's actually super important, and it's broken into two parts. Conforms to its type design basically means all the original factory parts are there and they're installed correctly. And condition for safe operation means exactly what it sounds like. Nothing is broken, worn out, or about to fail. And get this, the ultimate responsibility for making that call for every single flight rests squarely on the pilot in command. So how do they know? They hit the books. Not textbooks, but the aircraft's maintenance logbooks. A pilot has to scour these records, looking for hard proof that every single mandatory inspection is up to date. Things like the big annual inspection, the transponder check, the emergency locator transmitter, or ELT. If even one of these has expired by a single day, nope, the plane is grounded. Period. No exceptions. And beyond the logbooks, a whole set of documents has to be physically on the aircraft for every flight. You can think of them as the plane's passport, its birth certificate, and its owner's manual all rolled into one. Without them, that plane isn't going anywhere, legally. Okay, so the paperwork checks out. Now the pilot swaps the detective hat for a doctor's coat. It is time for a full, hands-on physical examination of the aircraft, what we all know as the walk-around. And trust me, this is not just a casual stroll. It's a meticulous, systematic flow that's usually guided by a very detailed checklist. Pilots are trained to look for tiny, almost invisible clues that an untrained eye would totally miss. For example, they'll look for a faint black oxide film around a rivet head. That's a telltale sign that the rivet is starting to work itself loose and the structure might be compromised. The level of precision required here is just incredible. The inspection continues inside the cockpit, even while the plane is just sitting there. A pilot cross-checks all the flight instruments. If that altimeter is off by more than 75 feet from the known airport elevation, that's it. It's a no-go for flying in clouds. Think about that. That is a razor-thin margin for error. And then we get to the fuel, one of the most critical checks of all. Putting the wrong type of fuel in an airplane can be absolutely catastrophic. Piston engines, right, they run on a type of gasoline called AVGS, while jets use a kerosene-based fuel. If you mix them up, a piston engine can fail right after takeoff. That's why pilots don't just trust the pump. They physically check the fuel's color, its smell, and even how it feels. This is exactly why using the right grade of fuel is just as important. If you use a lower grade fuel than what's required, you can get something called detonation. It's not a smooth, controlled burn anymore. It's a violent, uncontrolled explosion happening inside the engine cylinders that can destroy an engine in just a few minutes. Just think of it as the worst, most destructive kind of engine knock imaginable. So, before every single flight, pilots drain a small sample of fuel from these low points in the tanks, which are called sumps. They're looking for water, which is heavier than fuel and sinks to the bottom, and also for dirt.
A fuel line that's full of water instead of fuel, well, that's going to cause an engine to quit, plain and simple.
Okay, so the machine has been poked, prodded, and inspected. It's perfect. But what about the most complex, most unpredictable system on any aircraft? The human who's flying it. This is where the pilot's focus has to turn inward to manage the all-important human factor. Why is this so critical? Well, get this. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, a staggering 85% of all aviation accidents are caused by pilot error. 85%. That makes the pilot's own mental and procedural checks arguably the most important safety system on the entire plane. Let's break this down real quick. A hazard is just a condition, like, say, some sketchy-looking weather up ahead. The risk is the future impact of that hazard if you don't do anything about it, like, losing control of the plane in that weather. The pilot's job is to see the hazard, understand the risk, and then do something to reduce it. Pilots use a framework for this called aeronautical decision-making, or ADM. And really, it's a continuous mental loop. A pilot is constantly identifying hazards, assessing the risk, and making decisions. They use every resource they have, weather briefings, air traffic control, and crucially, they have to recognize and cope with their own stress or fatigue before finally making a decision and then evaluating how it turned out. It's about managing themselves just as much as managing the airplane. All right, we are now at the final act on the ground. All that prep work, the paperwork, the physical checks, the mental gymnastics, it all comes together right now as the pilot brings the engine to life and gets ready to head for the runway. Now, this might sound a little strange, but pilots will actually say their emergency plans out loud, even when they're flying completely alone. This is called a takeoff briefing. They verbalize the exact plan for an engine failure right after the plane is committed to flying. By saying it aloud, they're building muscle memory for one of the most critical moments you can possibly imagine. Before even entering the runway, there's one last major check, the run-up. The pilot holds the brakes, brings the engine to a high power setting, and, as you can see here, runs through a final checklist. Are the controls moving freely? Are the engine systems ready? All the gauges in the green? They are making absolutely certain that the engine is healthy and producing full power before they bet their life on it. And you think the checks are over? Nope, not yet. As the pilot pushes that throttle forward for takeoff, their eyes are absolutely glued to the engine instruments. Everything has to be in the green. The engine has to feel perfectly smooth. This is the absolute final moment to catch a problem and safely abort the takeoff. So after seeing all of this, all the mechanical, the legal, and the mental checks that have to happen, it's pretty clear that a pilot's walk-around isn't just a routine. It's a promise. It's a methodical, deliberate promise that everything humanly possible has been done on the ground to ensure your safety in the air.